typical communities is here is like open source projects, and collaboration means contributors like us, anyone like in the community, like it can be you, it can be me, like any contributor which is willing to contribute and give to the ecosystem. So who am I? So you can see I am a developer advocate at Lifecycle. So second, I am a DevOps and Go developer. I talk about open source on social. If you have seen me on social, Twitter, LinkedIn, or anywhere, I mostly talk about open source. And of course, I create content. This is my, what to say, full-time job. So open source. So how many of you have contributed to open source? Anyone here? Okay, we have some people. So I hope by the end of this talk, we can encourage more people to jump into the open source, and like we will first talk about, like we will talk about why you should jump in, but I hope like some people will from the community just jump in and understand why we need to contribute. So yeah, so why it is so important to contribute? So I would say not contribute, I say give back. So the reason to give back is like, even though like we are consuming open source, we generally don't care. Right? What I mean by don't care, even though if you know this pointer runs a what to say kernel which is based on the open source software. Anything like I'm using MacBook, the terminal which is built, it is built on the open source only. Anything like if you see on the day-to-day basis, use open source software, any website, Angular, Node, anything which is completely open source and we don't care. So who is open source for? So everyone, yeah, absolutely. If you are from Web3, if you are from AIML or what to say, web development, Android development, app development, be it any development, it is for everyone. So I built this, I took this some time and built this. You can see, if you are from Web3, you have Solidity, MetaMask, and Solana. If you are from, what to say, AIML, you have TensorFlow and PyTorch. If you are from like a simple programming language user, you have Python and JavaScript. If you are from DevOps person like me, this Kubernetes, Jenkins, Docker. And if you are just a video content or video creator, content creator, you have OBS over there. And if you're an app developer, you have Flutter over there. And you're just a hardcore, what to say, web developer which use multiple stacks like React, what to say, Vercel, Angular, anything. You have Next.js and what to say, React over here. So why to contribute to open source? I think this is the super important question, because why do care? Why you care? Like why should you contribute? Upskill, absolutely. Thing is like when you contribute to open source, you meet lots of people from different expertise. Some people are from have 10 year industry experience. Some are just getting started. So you get a mixed bag of experiences. Like someone is really good at Node.js, might be someone really good at Angular, or someone really good at React. So when you try to code with those people and you create pull requests or do their changes in the repository, they give you feedback and you improve. So this is how you upskill. It's upskill to learn in the industry standard, and what to say, the repository which is already in the production, you learn those skills, how to create a production level code. So second thing is get a job. Absolutely, I recently got a job from open source only. A company just what to say approached me just based on my open source contribution and my content which I create on the Twitter and LinkedIn. They are open source company which is I mentioned Lifecycle. So they just approached me just for my open source contribution only. Credibility, absolutely. I always talk about this credibility thing. Why I say this credibility thing is like if you're coding in your local host, like we generally do, who will know that what is actual skill set? Like okay, you are master in Next.js, but how someone will know? So when you contribute, you can only contribute if you know certain stuff. And if you know certain stuff, when you create pull requests, it proves that you are actually know the stuff. So this make you credible, and this is what company looks for. Okay, this person is, for example, talk about daily dev, which Francesco worked with. It is built on JavaScript, and there are a bunch of frameworks in that. And if you're contributing to daily dev, the tech stack which is used, and you're contributing that tech stack, it proves you that you know that tech stack, because you can only contribute, and not only contribute. If your pull request is getting merged, it means that you know production level code. So this create a transparency as well as a credibility. Global audience, absolutely. Talk about any project. There are, I think, any project at least has people from like 10 or 15 countries. Some projects are because contributor can be from India, China, anywhere. Talk about the daily dev. Like I will talk about again about the daily dev. So because this is a great example, because in the daily dev team, like there is 7-8 people, and each and every people are different country, and they are building a project together. This is how daily dev is. So you can see it brings global audience at one place and they collaborate. Yeah, that's it. And test your knowledge. Of course, you can only create pull requests. No, sorry, you can create pull requests and you get merged. So it also verifies, okay, I'm learning right stuff. So it like there was a I am talking about before this. If you know JavaScript, there is a ES6 and a simple JavaScript. In the simple JavaScript, there was a hype like, okay, this is a standard of code, or this is standard of code. So, but when you get code merged, this means, okay, you are learning the right standards and you are writing the code in a proper way. This is a test, just basically just test the knowledge, you are learning the right stuff. Real world experience, yeah, I already touched upon this. You get real world experience because you're contributing to real world projects. Yeah. Yeah, this is one of the most important key, and this is, I think, this get faded away in many cases. Like when we say open source, people generally think it is code. No, I always say open source is just code is a very small part of open source. Why you say that? Because if you write production level code and just push to GitHub, who gonna use and who gonna see that? No one. This happens like if you don't document your project well, don't create content around that, don't build graphics around that, no one can use it. People only use good products which have good user experience. That makes sense. So non-code contribution. What are non-code contribution? Super important thing. Docs. I think everyone use docs, correct? Either you are using SDK or any languages, anything. Docs are super done. This is non-code contribution. And I always say docs are 50% of the project, because if you don't have good docs, your project is shit. That's it. So design, absolutely. Design is also a non-code contribution. The reason is that a good design, let me say in this way, a product with bad design is a bad product, a product with a good design is a good product. That's it, that is the bottom line. If you have a product with a good design, and this also happens, like company having a really good product which is really solving a problem, but they fail because they don't have good design, they don't have good experience. Yeah, listen, advocating generally means like that, what I used to do, like it can be educating people about open source, it can be giving talks, anything. That is also a part of open source contribution. And yeah, translation. One more thing I want to say. We generally pretend everyone knows English. No, that is not true. If you talk about the countries like Japan and China, people are so native, they don't understand, in general I'm talking, not saying everyone, they don't understand English. So what they recently started doing is some bigger repositories, they started translating into multiple languages. Anyone knows Kubernetes over here? Okay, that is cool. So if you talk about Kubernetes is translating their project into 50 languages. The 35 is going on. I am personally a so-called maintainer of the Kubernetes. So I am also reviewing those stuff as well. So I am currently focusing on Hindi. So yeah, we are changing into that. Like this also helps. This is not like we are also just bringing the Kubernetes coder to get involved in the ecosystem. We are also involving non-code coders to learn Kubernetes, because they will write documentation, and this in the process they will learn Kubernetes as well. Yeah. Content creation. Yeah, I mentioned like if you create content, this is also part of open source, of course, because you are doing something like encouraging people to step into that ecosystem. Absolutely. Any prerequisite? No, there's no prerequisite, but there are two things to learn. What is Git? Anyone knows Git? What is Git? What is Git? Yeah, anyone?
Yeah, so it's a version control tool.
Absolutely. So what is a version control tool? Let me give you a very brief. So like when you do changes in open source, each and everything is tracked. When it happened and who has done that, and which specific person has done that. The reason to do that is, like as I mentioned, open source is a very open kind of collaboration thing. So this is why it happened. Like this is the tool which creates openness. Like, okay, this person has made these changes on this day, and the power of Git is that you can reverse that changes. Like for example, your website is built on Next.js, and Next.js 13 released some kind of feature, and you find some bug. Okay, this bug can't be fixed in 1 or 2 days. Let's roll back. So with the Git, with a single command, you can just roll back those things. So this is the power of Git. I know everyone is familiar with this logo, GitHub. So I just take the example of GitHub, but there are lots of other things like GitLab, and there are Bitbucket. But the reason I put GitHub is over here is like it has better ecosystem and some bigger repositories like Node, Angular, and everything like Daily as well, like Francesco's company code is also hosted on GitHub. Yep. So how to get started? I think this is one of the most asked questions, how to get started. So Anyone familiar with the good first issues? Yeah. So let me explain. Let me clear one thing before I explain about first issues. This is a very subjective thing. If a repository is just started 1 month ago, good first issue might be different for them. And if you talk about the project like Kubernetes, good first issues might be different from them because the maturity of product increases and the good of first issues level increases. This makes sense. So good first issues are a good way to start because in this practice, you generally don't need to know each and every part of the code, but this is a good way to know about that code. For example, if I want to contribute to Angular, so good first issues are a good way to know about the project, to know about how the actual code cycle works, because every repository has a cycle to contribute. Like it might be signing some CLA or following some good practices or following some code styling. So good, because when you solve good first issue, you don't have too much pressure on you. You are just solving a very simple thing. But in that manner, you learn the process, you learn the repository styling and anything. How to find projects? I think my DM is full of this, like how to find projects. I will answer this in public. So yeah. Sorry for the blurry, images. There are like couple of ways to find them. First one is, I personally like the first one. It is called advanced search, which is on github.com/search/advanced. What this provides you, it gives you a form kind of thing, and you just fill out the form. What if you want a repository which is JavaScript, have 30 stars, and Pradumna has contributed, you can find this repository with this advanced search. This is super cool, and this is super, and this is hidden, to be honest. Like GitHub don't talk about this. So, and shout out to Eddie Jaude, I learned from this, from him. Second thing is label. I mean to say label is that, as I mentioned of the good first issue label, you can search the whole GitHub with a label. You might be wanting to contribute to Web3, so you can search with Web3 label. If you are just starting out, you can choose good first issue. It might be a not good contributor. You want to search for documentation, you can have a documentation label. If you are into design, you can search for design label. This is also another cool way to find GitHub.com topics. It helps you. For example, I just shared you a language, but you can have over there a Android development, not a language specific. So it will show a project which is involved in Android development. So this is good. Like if you are a certain tech stack or certain field, you can have that topic and get project according to that. And after that, you can also filter out by labels and everything, like on the top of that. So this is a project by So this is a project by EddieHub. It is open source, I will talk about later. So there is a project called finder.eddieHub.io. What it does is that it scans good first issue from all over the GitHub, which is labeled as, there is a special label for that. So it shows up all the issues so that you can easily find those issues, because sometimes people feel overwhelmed like finding this way in the second one I talk about, but this helps a lot to refine those things. So sanity check. What I mean by sanity check is that when you contribute, there are some red flags. What I mean by red flag is that it might be you're interested in project, but the maintainer does not want your contribution. This happens a lot. So what is the sanity? First, check the repository is working or not. First is working. Second, what are the latest commits? It is dead for 1 year, it is dead for 2 years. It does not make sense to put your effort in a 2-year-old dead repository, because open source take efforts, absolutely. So third thing is check the close pull requests, open pull requests, close issues, open issues, and see how is the conversation. For example, if someone has opened an issue, I want to fix this issue, and if the person is not replying for 15 or 20 or 30 days, it does not make sense to invest time in those projects, because that might be not interested in your contribution as well. Yep. Maintainer perspective. Now this is the second part of the talk. This is the super important thing I want to talk about. So, yeah, everyone can understand the contribution process. That is okay. But I am talking about the maintainer perspective, which generally people don't talk about. So there is a gap. Like people want contribution and contributors want to contribute, but there is still a connection gap between that. Contributors are not able to contribute, and maintainers are not able to get the contribution. That is so weird problem. Like contributor want to contribute, but maintainer not getting contribution. That's so super weird. So how we can improve? So there are a couple of loose connection between them. So first one is easy onboarding. Easy onboarding is make easy for the contributor to just get started with that project, because sometimes people want to contribute but they get overwhelmed with the scalability of the project. And the thing is that people generally have a perspective like, okay, I can't contribute to bigger projects because that is super silly. No, you can get started with project, as I mentioned, with a good first issues and different ways. But making the project onboarding easy, it makes little bit, it makes contributor little bit feel more comfortable to get started. Second thing is automate repetitive tasks. What I mean by automate repetitive tasks, like for example, if your project run for testing, CI/CD and other things, just make those things automated so that you can focus more on the contributors, so that you can focus more on the answering the questions, not doing the random stuff like linting stuff, pre-tier stuff and those stuff. Just automate with I'm just going to name some CID like GitHub Actions and using the GitLab. You can automate those stuff with those and just focus more on the community side and helping other new contributors to just jump in the project. Clear contributing guidelines. This is also a super important thing. Like I see some people contribute to README and bigger projects. I also see on the bigger projects. Some people contribute to README and people just close their pull request. By people I mean the maintainers, because they say we don't want like this kind of contribution, documentation or README. So when you are building a project, just create a contributing.md, which is one of the important file in the any project, and GitHub also supports very good. So just mention what exactly contribution you're expecting. If, like personally, I do like if my project is on the design side, I clearly mention designer can also contribute and what is the prerequisite. For example, if they know Figma, if you are contributing on the code side, you mention, okay, you need to know about the NPM, you need to know about the node and everything. If you are talking about documentation, just mention we are expecting for documentation, you at least need to know about Markdown and anything. In this way, if any contributors is jumping on the project, he or she at least know what the project expectation is, or I am good to contribute on this or not. Because he or she can open the pull request, then he close. It takes your effort as well, it takes their effort as well. Encourage small contribution, absolutely. I already talked about the README kind of thing, that's the part of small contribution. So encourage those, like if people are fixing those, encourage those, because those are your future contributors. If they get very good, environment when contributing to your project at the very start, they are more willing to contribute in future. You can't expect someone just jump in and fix 1,000 line of code. No, it starts with single line of code, typo fixes and other links. So take their small contribution and they might be one of your biggest contributor. Welcome node code contribution, I already talked about this. Documentation and other things which are part of node code contribution. Creating a safe space to ask questions. I think this is one of the good projects are doing, creating community. I will give a shout out to Apprite also, Kushbu is here. They have super wonderful community in the Discord. What they are doing is that they are actually caring for the contributors and helping them to get started. There is also a very loose connection that people don't find a good space to ask questions. They think it will be super bad for them if they ask simple commands or simple questions with them. So yeah, creating a safe space to just feel good. Like, okay, I can ask easily. So this is a super important. You can also use GitHub discussions, but I feel sometimes off to the GitHub works well as well, like Discord, Slack, anything, which works for you as well. So community standard. Anyone know community standard? There's a, okay, I will show this slide. Sorry for the blurry, this is a problem from here. So there are certain community standard which is on GitHub. So GitHub called as community standard. There's nothing called community standard, but the thing is that it provides sets of checklists, you can say. So you can see, leave the first two. Third is code of conduct. So code of conduct is important as well, because there are some random people who will jump on and try to hamper your project, hamper your maintaining cycle, everything. So you need to have a strong code of conduct so that anyone doing unfair means or anything, you can just know what is the exact step. Like it can be blocking them, it can be let them to leave the community. But you need some kind of stuff, because you can't expect everyone is good at in the open source community. So fourth is licensing. Fourth is it is blurry, but let me have a look. What is? Okay, it is contributing.md, which I talk about. Fifth is licensing. So this is also super important when you are having a license in a project. This also tells a lot what you want when your project is cloned and when your project is forked. If you want certain kind of license where project is get forked, and use further, and they still need to be public, you need to choose that kind of license, because you can't expect anyone to having no license and they will not use your code. The license help you set some kind of standard. Okay, this when this code is forked, and when this code is cloned, this code need to be used in a certain way. And fifth is no, sorry, one to third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Sixth is security policy. So security policy is like sometimes there are some issues on the project, but this happened previously. A repository, I will not name that. Someone reported an issue on the GitHub, and that one is vulnerability issue. And what happened is that when that vulnerability issue get open on the GitHub, people use backdoors to DDoS that project. So security policy provides you a special template where you can talk to that maintainer or ping to that maintainer privately, so that they can fix those issues. Because if you put that on public, anyone just use that backdoors and DDoS that, or put a hamper on a project. So security policy is a super important thing, and GitHub recently introduced this. Issue templates and pull request templates are more on this stuff, like it helps you when you are someone is creating pull requests. They have a certain kind of, for example, if you want your have a pull request template, so you can say you have read the community guidelines, or you have already followed the code standards. This you can design in your own way, but yeah, it gives you issue template. This is a very cool thing in the GitHub. Like sometimes it happens if someone want to report a designer, and they feel a little bit overwhelmed because everything on GitHub is so code oriented. So you can have a design issue where just it is for the people who are into design ecosystem. They can simply report. Okay, you can also have that section for how to replicate this, or what it works on. Might be working on Mac and but is not working on the Windows. So it depends. So having a specific templates for specific thing. For example, have a template for docs, have a template for code, have a template for design, and it goes on like translation, everything. Yeah. So do and don'ts. So this is very it can be very like person oriented, but what I think should be do and don'ts. I talk about the contributor, first read the community guidelines and contributing guidelines, then jump on a project, because there are certain requirements on a project. I think in every good project there is certain kind of requirement. So yeah, there's no barrier, but certain kind of expectation from a contributor. So check the community guidelines or contributing guidelines, which is in the community. Second thing is if you are trying to do some bigger changes, raise the issue first and confirm with the maintainer, okay, they are expecting those changes or not. Because sometimes it happens like contributor put a 5 days effort just to add that feature, and maintainer close that pull request because they are not expecting that, because the contributor is seeing one side of that code, but it might be some CI/CDs related to that, might be some other parallel services which is dependent on that. If they merge that code, that might be harmful for the repository. So have a maintainer perspective before you do big changes. And some projects also have a practice. Even you are changing a single word, you need to open issue and get assigned, then create a pull request. So it depends. So check this kind of stuff. And talking about the maintainer do and don'ts, don't try to enforce anyone like, okay, you are not allowed to solve this issue, you need to solve this issue. Something online, like be open and encourage more contributors. And one more thing, be inclusive, like should be not oriented on anything like, okay, I will just take, my repository contains JavaScript, Next.js, but I will only take contribution from Next.js and JavaScript. I will not allow anyone to use contribute on the docs or readme. Just be flexible, because this is open source, and yeah, if everything is in public, you need to accept everything in public. That's it. And want to give a shout out to the EDHub community. So if you know Eddie Chowde, absolutely, I think everyone knows that. So there's a community called EDHub which helps new contributor to get started. And this personally helped me in my journey, and I started with this only. So it helps a lot. So huge shout out to him. Like if you want to join a Discord server or join in the channel, just head over to edhub.org and you will find that. So yeah, this is one of my project which is called Open Source with Pradumna. I think it has over 700 or 800. I'm still not sure. So yeah, so I have created this repository just to help people out. And sorry for the blurry image. So it has multiple things like I created 15-day bootcamp as well. If you head over to repository, okay, this link is a little bit, let make it small. It's bit.ly/OSSWP. So it has like 15 days of bootcamp, and how this very cool thing I recently started. Like we have question, how to create a pull request, how to open an issue. So I have answer for everything. How to open a pull request, or how to create an issue, how to link an issue, or how to close issue with a comment. So there's a how to guide for everything in that if you click that. And there is also some regular content which I post on LinkedIn and Twitter. And there is another page called resources, in which I have linked some which helped me, and some of the cool resources which recently came out in the community. So yeah, that's it, and thank you for joining the talk. If you want to connect with me, just scan barcode or just Google me, Pradumna Saraf. That's it. Thank you so much.